A quarter may only be worth 25 cents, but the right one can carry decades of history and a detail most people never notice. Welcome back to Change Your Life. Today, we're exploring 3 Washington quarters that collectors continue to examine. 1977 D Washington Quarter. 1979 Washington Quarter, no mint mark. 1973 Washington Quarter, no mint mark. Featuring the classic Heraldic Eagle reverse design and a copper-nickel clad composition, these quarters have passed through countless hands over the years. Most look worn and ordinary, but collectors search them for mint errors, die varieties, and unique characteristics that make certain coins stand out. The surprising truth is that sometimes the smallest marks can reveal the most interesting stories. Stay until the end. The final quarter has a detail that many people overlook. Let's begin with coin number 1. What if a simple-looking quarter sitting in your change jar could tell a fascinating story about American coin history? The first coin in today's countdown is the 1977 D Washington Quarter, a coin that millions of people have handled without realizing its connection to one of America's longest-running coin designs. At first glance, this quarter may appear completely ordinary. The surface may be covered with scratches, dirt, and years of circulation marks. The details may look softer than when it was first produced, and the once bright finish may have faded into a dull gray appearance. But collectors understand that even a heavily circulated coin deserves a closer inspection, because hidden details can sometimes make an everyday coin more interesting. The 1977 D Washington Quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the obverse side of the coin. During the late 1970s, the United States Mint produced enormous quantities of Washington quarters to support everyday commerce across the country. These coins traveled through countless transactions, from stores and banks to vending machines and cash registers. The obverse features the famous profile of George Washington, originally designed by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, surrounded by the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 1977. The small Denver Mint mark beneath the neck identifies where this quarter was produced. Turning the coin over reveals the classic Heraldic Eagle reverse design, featuring a powerful American eagle with wings spread wide, surrounded by arrows, olive branches, and national symbols. This reverse design was used on Washington quarters for decades and remains one of the most recognizable images in United States coinage. The 1977 D Washington Quarter was produced using a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This durable metal combination replaced the traditional silver quarter after 1964 and was designed to withstand years of circulation. Because these coins were heavily used, many surviving examples show worn surfaces, scratches, and reduced detail. However, collectors do not only look at age or appearance. They carefully examine coins for genuine mint-made characteristics such as double dies, die cracks, strike issues, and other production varieties that can make certain examples more collectible. Although the 1977 D Washington Quarter was produced in large numbers, and most examples remain common, collectors continue searching through old collections and pocket change because unusual varieties can sometimes appear where people least expect them. A worn quarter from 1977 may seem like just another piece of pocket change, but every mark on the surface represents a journey through American history. And for collectors, the excitement comes from knowing that one small detail can transform an ordinary coin into something truly interesting. The story of the 1977 D Washington Quarter goes beyond its everyday appearance. While millions of these quarters were created for circulation, collectors continue to examine them because the minting process itself can sometimes create unexpected varieties. A small difference made during production can separate one ordinary-looking coin from another. Every quarter begins as a blank metal planchet before being struck by specially prepared dies. These dies must produce thousands of coins with identical designs, but over time, they experience pressure and wear. As a result, small imperfections can occasionally appear on the coins they strike. Collectors searching through 1977 D Washington quarters often look for features such as doubled lettering, die cracks, die chips, struck-through errors, off-center strikes, and unusual strike characteristics. These features are not found on every coin, which is why careful examination is an important part of the hobby. The Heraldic Eagle reverse design provides several areas where collectors inspect details closely. The eagle's feathers, arrows, olive branches, lettering, and surrounding fields can reveal clues about the quality of the strike and the condition of the coin. Under magnification, even small differences can become fascinating discoveries. The copper-nickel clad composition of the 1977 D quarter also gives collectors another area to study. Some coins may show interesting surface changes caused by circulation, environmental exposure, or natural aging. However, collectors distinguish between normal wear and genuine mint-made characteristics when evaluating a coin's importance. Condition plays a major role in the value of any Washington quarter. A heavily circulated example with scratches and faded details will usually have much less collector demand than a coin with sharp features and original surfaces. Still, a worn coin can remain interesting if it contains a verified mint error or unusual variety. Professional authentication is especially important when a coin appears different from normal examples. Experts examine whether unusual marks or features were created during the minting process or happened later through damage and circulation. This careful process helps determine the true collectible status of a coin. It is important to remember that most 1977 D Washington quarters are common and are usually worth their face value or a small premium depending on condition. Higher values are generally connected to authenticated mint errors, recognized varieties, or coins preserved in exceptional condition. The real excitement of coin collecting comes from the search. A quarter that spent decades moving through everyday life may still have a story waiting to be discovered. That is why collectors continue checking old Washington quarters. They know that even a familiar coin can sometimes reveal an unexpected piece of American history. The second coin in today's countdown is the 1979 Washington quarter with no mint mark, a coin that represents an important period in American coin history. At first glance, this quarter may appear completely ordinary. Its surface may be covered with years of circulation wear, small scratches, and faded details from decades of use. But collectors understand that even modern-looking coins can hold interesting stories when examined carefully. The 1979 Washington quarter with no mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. During this era, Philadelphia quarters were often released without a mint mark, making the absence of a letter beneath the date an important identifying feature. Millions of these quarters entered circulation, traveling through everyday transactions across the United States. The obverse displays the famous portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, surrounded by the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 1979. Unlike Denver or other mint issues, the space beneath the date is blank, showing that the coin was struck at Philadelphia. The reverse features the classic Heraldic Eagle design, showing a powerful eagle with outstretched wings, holding arrows, and surrounded by olive branches. The design represents strength, independence, and peace, making it one of the most recognizable reverse images in American quarter history. The 1979 Washington quarter was made from a copper-nickel clad composition, with outer layers of copper-nickel surrounding a pure copper core. This material had been used for circulating quarters since the mid-1960s, after the United States moved away from traditional silver quarter production. Because these coins were heavily circulated, many surviving examples show signs of everyday use. Some have darkened surfaces, worn lettering, and softened designs. However, collectors know that condition is only one factor when evaluating a coin. Mint marks, production quality, and possible errors can also influence collector interest. Specialists carefully examine 1979 Philadelphia quarters for unusual features such as double dies, die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, and other mint-made errors. While most examples are common, a genuine production mistake can make a coin much more interesting to collectors. The 1979 Washington quarter also belongs to a fascinating era when the United States Mint was preparing for major changes in coin design, including the upcoming transition to the Susan B. Anthony dollar. These years make late 1970s coins an interesting area for collectors who enjoy studying modern American coinage. Although most 1979 Washington quarters with no mint mark are common and usually worth their face value, collectors continue searching through old collections and pocket change because unexpected varieties can still be discovered. A simple quarter from 1979 may have passed through thousands of hands before reaching you. Its worn surface tells a story of everyday American life, and for collectors, that history is exactly what makes the hunt exciting. The 1979 Philadelphia Washington quarter represents a fascinating chapter in the modern era of American coinage. While this quarter was produced in enormous numbers, collectors continue studying these coins because the late 1970s were a period of change, experimentation, and growing interest in modern coin varieties. One of the most interesting aspects of this coin is the absence of a mint mark. For many new collectors, a missing letter may seem like a mistake, but in this case, it identifies the coin as a Philadelphia Mint issue. Understanding mint marks is one of the first skills collectors learn because the location where a coin was produced can greatly affect how a coin is classified. During production, each 1979 quarter passed through a complex manufacturing process. Metal blanks were prepared, dies were engraved with the design, and powerful presses struck the final images onto the coins. Even with careful quality control, small differences could occasionally occur during this process. Collectors examining 1979 Washington quarters often search for authentic varieties and mint errors. They may inspect areas such as the date, lettering, Washington's portrait, and the eagle design for unusual characteristics. Features like double details, die cracks, die chips, weak strikes, and other production anomalies can make certain examples more interesting. The reverse side with the Heraldic Eagle offers another area of study. Collectors pay attention to the feather details, arrows, olive branches, and inscriptions because the quality of the strike can vary from coin to coin. A sharper strike with stronger details is usually more appealing than a heavily worn example. The journey of a circulated 1979 quarter is also part of its appeal. These coins were used during a changing time in American history, moving through gas stations, shopping centers, vending machines, and daily transactions. A worn quarter is not just a piece of metal, it is a small record of the years it spent in circulation. When evaluating a 1979 Washington quarter, collectors consider several factors together: the coin's condition, originality, mint characteristics, and whether any unusual feature is genuine. A damaged coin with scratches or marks from circulation is different from a true mint error created during production. It is important to remember that most 1979 Washington quarters with no mint mark are common circulation coins. Their value is usually based on condition and collector interest, while significant premiums are generally connected to authenticated errors, recognized varieties, or exceptional examples. The real excitement comes from the possibility of finding something unexpected. A quarter that looks ordinary at first glance may reveal a fascinating detail under magnification. That mystery is what keeps collectors searching through old jars, coin albums, and everyday change, because every coin has a story waiting to be uncovered. The third coin in today's countdown is the 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark, a coin from a unique period when America's circulating coins were adjusting to a new era. While many people today overlook these quarters as ordinary pocket change, collectors understand that every coin reflects the technology, economy, and history of the time when it was produced. The 1973 Washington quarter, with no mint mark, was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During this period, Philadelphia-produced quarters did not carry a mint mark, making the blank space beneath the date the identifying feature. This detail is easy to miss, but it helps collectors determine where the coin was created. At first glance, a circulated 1973 quarter may appear unremarkable. Many examples have traveled through decades of daily use, leaving behind scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details. The once sharp design may have softened, especially around Washington's hair, lettering, and the eagle's feathers. However, collectors know that condition alone does not tell the entire story. The obverse features the classic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The design shows Washington facing left with the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 1973 surrounding the portrait. The absence of a mint mark confirms its Philadelphia origin. The reverse displays the famous Heraldic Eagle design, featuring an eagle with wings spread wide, holding arrows while surrounded by olive branches. Above the eagle appears the national motto, E pluribus unum. This powerful design symbolized strength and unity, and remained a defining feature of Washington quarters for many decades. The 1973 quarter was produced using the modern copper-nickel clad composition, with a copper core surrounded by layers of copper and nickel. This change from silver to clad metal began in 1965 and represented one of the biggest transformations in American circulating coinage. The early 1970s were an important time for the Washington Quarter series. The United States Mint was producing huge quantities of coins to meet public demand, and millions of quarters entered circulation every year. Because so many were made, most examples remain common, but collectors still examine them for unusual characteristics. Specialists carefully inspect 1973 Philadelphia quarters for possible double dies, die cracks, die chips, weak strikes, and other genuine mint-made varieties. These features are created during the manufacturing process and can make certain examples more interesting than ordinary circulation coins. A worn 1973 Washington quarter may not look impressive today, but it represents a piece of everyday American history. It may have been used during a decade of major changes, passing through countless hands before eventually being saved by a collector. Although most 1973 Washington quarters with no mint mark are common, careful collectors continue searching because unexpected discoveries can still happen. Sometimes, the smallest details hidden on a familiar coin are what make it worth a second look. The 1973 Philadelphia Washington quarter is a perfect example of why collectors look beyond the surface of a coin. While the majority of these quarters were produced for everyday circulation, the manufacturing process behind each one creates opportunities for unique characteristics that make certain examples stand apart. During the early 1970s, the United States Mint was producing coins at a massive scale. Every quarter required precise preparation of metal blanks, engraved dies, and powerful striking machines. With millions of coins being produced, small differences could occasionally appear during the process. Collectors who study 1973 Washington quarters often search for authentic mint-made features rather than ordinary damage. They examine the date, lettering, portrait details, and the eagle reverse for signs of double design elements, die cracks, die chips, incomplete strikes, and other production anomalies. The reverse heraldic eagle design provides many details for inspection. The feathers of the eagle, the arrows, the olive branches, and the surrounding inscriptions can reveal the quality of the strike. A coin with stronger details may attract more collector interest than one that has lost much of its original design through circulation. Because these quarters are made from a copper-nickel clad alloy, many circulated examples develop different appearances over time. Some become darker from environmental exposure, while others maintain lighter gray surfaces. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces and avoid examples that have been harshly cleaned or artificially altered. The condition of a 1973 quarter tells the story of its journey. A heavily circulated example may have passed through stores, banks, vending machines, and thousands of transactions. Although the coin may no longer look new, its history of use is part of what makes old circulating coins interesting. When collectors discover a coin that appears unusual, authentication becomes important. Experts determine whether the feature was created during the minting process or caused later by wear, damage, or environmental factors. This difference can completely change how a coin is viewed within the collecting community. It is important to understand that most 1973 Washington quarters with no mint mark are common and usually have value based on condition and collector demand. Extraordinary prices are generally connected to verified mint errors, recognized varieties, or coins preserved in exceptional condition. The excitement of coin hunting comes from the possibility of finding something unexpected among ordinary change. A quarter that once bought a small item decades ago may now represent a fascinating piece of American history. That is why collectors continue searching through old collections and coin jars, because every coin has a story, and sometimes the smallest details create the biggest discovery.